guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about something that I've low-key talked about, but that's been bothering me. So today I want to talk about Instagram versus reality. Now there are plenty of pages on Instagram that show befores and afters of celebrities, of popular influencers, of people who modify their pictures. The first thing I just want to kind of disclaim is I don't look at these things to be like, oh my god, they're so ugly without that modification, because I think that almost 100% of the time people look completely fine and they didn't have to modify things. However, I'm also of the mindset, if you want to change your skin so it doesn't look like skin anymore and just looks like suede almost, if you want to do that, you're allowed to do that, but I'm also allowed to comment on the fact that it doesn't look real and you're not fooling anyone. And I also wanted to talk about the fact that it is damaging in some ways, and I can't say that I don't think that the people who modify themselves to hell aren't damaged, because if you're on Instagram posing with a waist this big and in reality your waist is a normal size, I can't imagine that that would do something good for your ego when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I don't look like my pictures. But I digress. I don't do that with my pictures myself. My body dysmorphia is bad enough without the help of that. As someone who is not very capable of spotting Photoshop, now that might sound potentially surprising, I don't know, but when I'm on Instagram, I usually pretty much take pictures at face value, mainly because I don't want to stop and analyze each picture and see if there's something wavy in the background. Like, I'm not interested to do that. It would ruin the experience. I'd feel more like an investigator rather than someone on social media. But aside from that, I'm genuinely just not good at spotting it. Unless the background is like warped, I won't be able to tell when something's photoshopped unless it's what I deem obvious. So I like looking at these things as a reminder to myself of, you didn't see it, but it's potentially still there. Don't believe what you see, which is kind of obvious at this point. But I feel like I know it, but I don't actively know it to the point that when I'm on Instagram, I should turn on this part of my brain that's like, what you're seeing probably isn't real. In my brain, I'm just taking them at face value and I'm like, wow, they look great. And you know, sometimes that fucks with my head, fucks with my mental health. And that's on me to fix, to be honest, which is why I sometimes go to these pages to see what the reality is. Not to denigrate them, not to belittle them, but on the contrary, probably to relate to them. Because if they have stretch marks, yeah, I have some. If they have cellulite, yeah, I have some. And I feel like that is better for me than seeing a picture of them that's entirely photoshopped, I find out. And I just kind of feel like, I don't, like, you barely look like a human. We have nothing in common. Does that make sense? So what I'm trying to do here is not to send hate to people. I actually like some of the people I'm going to show you, but just for us to all step back and think about what it is we're putting online and what message that sends and if we're okay with that message. But before we get into the video, I did want to thank our sponsor today, and our sponsor is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with more than 25,000 classes in design, business, and more. Premium membership gives you unlimited access so you can join classes and communities that are right for you. So I myself was interested in 2 classes. Now there are 2 things that I enjoy doing, which is taking pictures on my iPhone, because when I'm out and about, I typically don't bring a camera with me. So I enjoyed that course because it specifically tells you what you can do to make your pictures look more professional. The other course I really liked was one that is titled How to Vlog, Film, Edit, and Upload to YouTube. Now obviously editing and uploading to YouTube I am familiar with, but I'm not really familiar with vlogging. I've only done a couple of vlogs in my time, and I still find myself wondering exactly what the hell I'm doing. I still feel uncomfortable with it. So I found this really interesting and helpful. And so I found these 2 things, and whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving. Join more than 7 million creators learning with Skillshare. You can join groups to learn with like-minded people, give and receive feedback on projects, and speak with others with the same interest as you. So again, Skillshare is giving away a free 2-month unlimited access trial to my subscribers who click the link in the description box, and after that, it's only around $10 a month. Thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get into the topic. So I was on one of those Instagram accounts that shows before and after editing type pictures. Now it is important to note that lighting, angles, the outfit, wearing heels or no heels, there are plenty of factors that make people look very different in different photos. I think we can all accept the fact that in our Instagram photos or in the pictures we post online, we try to post the ones that make us look best, and there is nothing wrong with that. I chose pictures where I thought the comparison was close enough, and if anything, it's just to train our eyes to not fool ourselves and to not make ourselves feel badly, because I know a lot of people do feel badly about themselves due to Instagram and people who over-edit their pictures. Okay, sorry, I know I'm really annoying, but this is officially the last disclaimer. I know people love to misinterpret these type of videos as bashing or telling other women what to do, but I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm simply underlining things that need to be underlined for when you use social media. I think it's irresponsible to act like everything we see is real, and I know that because I firsthand have had that problem. So we're just looking at what's real, what's not. These women can do whatever they want. No one's stopping them. Okay, so here we have a picture of a reality star called Zara McDermott. I have never heard of this person. This seems pretty heavily edited, and I don't think it's just a question of lighting and posing. It just seems like her body is structurally different. And the thing is, like, I feel like she looks fine in the picture on the right. Like, there's nothing wrong with how she looks there. And, you know, if she doesn't like that, that's fine. I don't really want to be that bitch who's like, oh, everyone's starting to look the same. But what I am saying is that if we keep going in this direction where everyone has to have a tiny waist, a huge ass, big boobs, yeah, we're all gonna start looking the same at some point. And this isn't a slippery slope thing as much as it is, if this trend keeps going this way, it's a possibility that people will start looking super alike because everyone wants to be at that ideal. And that's not to say that people will look really alike in person as much as the pictures we will scroll through will look very similar, and I think that problem is already happening. If you look at all the major influencers, there is definitely a lot in common. The other thing is, maybe they will look similar in real life too, because I do think that plastic surgery, even if it's small things like lip injections, jaw injections, Botox, like there are small things you can do to really alter yourself, and it's more accessible now than ever. So it is a problem. And you're entirely entitled to have that ideal. I'm just saying that's what's gonna happen. Okay, then we have this picture of the real Carla J. I actually follow her, and I didn't even know she edited her pictures that much because, like I said, I really am not good at spotting it unless it's obvious. And again, I feel like there's nothing wrong with how she looked before, but I do think the one thing I think about all the time when I see things like this is, what are you gonna say when you meet someone in person? You know, like if you're just making your skin a bit smoother, if you're hiding a pimple, if you're photoshopping out something you spilled on your shirt, you know, like that's not a difference that would make a random person not recognize you. However, a big part of how someone recognizes you is how big your body is, how tall you are. Those are things that people can recognize you by. And it's just kind of wild to me that people Photoshop themselves to look thinner or curvier or more defined. And I'm like, what are you gonna do when you meet someone? I just wanna know. And again, she looked fine in the previous picture, but it just kind of makes me wonder how people feel about themselves. Aside from the fact that in the left picture, I don't know if it's the lighting, but her face looks super blurred apart from her eyes. So I don't know what's going on there. So here we have a picture of a girl with roses. Is that Cami Osman? It looks like her. I think I follow her. But anyway, the thing is, like, we're also kind of morphing the expectation of what we see in pictures. For example, in the picture on the right, which is the actual picture without her editing, she looks like a normal person sitting down. Like most people sitting down, unless you're flexing and in a certain position, you won't necessarily have a roll. Maybe you will, but your stomach will look a little bit more bloated because you're sitting down and you're hunched usually, right? So I don't expect someone to have a six-pack when they're sitting down, especially if they're sitting in a position like her. But she's either edited it or breathed in or something like that, sucked in, to the point where it gives the hourglass illusion, which again, do whatever, but the expectation is still incorrect because I have a mirror right here, and if I pulled up my shirt and did a similar stance, I wouldn't look the same. And it's not because I don't have her body, which I totally don't, but it's because most people have the same reaction. I also sometimes worry, and I'm not even talking about young, you know, people and children, but I'm also thinking about adults that are potentially around my age, 25, right? If you consistently see something and you don't really investigate it like I don't, and you just take it at face value for what's real, which is my mistake, I think it can slowly start to make you think that that is actually what's real, and not only that, but that you also need to fit into this kind of alternate version of reality, which sucks because then you automatically become not good enough to be worth being reality. You have to be somebody else's version of reality. Does that make sense? So here's another picture, and I don't think that this one is just a case of posing. Like, her body genuinely, structurally, to me looks different. I don't know if because one swimsuit is low-waisted, but she genuinely looks entirely different to the point where I'm wondering if this is a different person, from like the chest area to the stomach area to the legs. I mean, the perspective is slightly different, but it's still, I don't know. I just feel like I would become so much more insecure in my own skin and in a swimsuit, especially if like I took pictures of myself that I ended up modifying so much that my body is not recognizable. Anyway, the last one we're gonna review is Kristen Hancher, and I follow her. A lot of the times, if you scroll to the comments of her pictures, a lot of people will be saying Photoshop, Photoshop, and a lot of the times I do think her Photoshop is evident to me, at least in the skin, because her skin always looks extremely smooth to the point where it looks blurred, which it is, but she also apparently does that with her hips too, because it looks like in the picture on the right, she's more of like a straight down body rather than like an hourglass, which there's nothing wrong with. I don't have an hourglass myself. But on top of that, you know, like even if we're talking about it from just a purely business standpoint, it's like people will not relate to you whatsoever if you continue to modify yourself to the point where you don't even look like you. This video wasn't made to shame people because, like I said, if you want to edit the shit out of something, you can do that. Anyways, guys, let me know what you think down below. Do you think there's a line that you draw when people edit? Are you actively aware on Instagram, like every second, that a picture is probably super edited and someone looks super different? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.